All right. Hey, good morning. Have a seat. How's everybody doing? All right. That worship set was pretty awesome this morning. Yeah? Come on. Thank you, worship team, production team. Really fast, can we just give a shout out to all of our volunteers this morning? Our welcome team, City Kids, Cafe, all of it. Really, really grateful. Hey, welcome to City Church. My name is Drake. I am the pastor here. It's an honor having you gather with us today as we approach the end of August and fall is around the corner. Come on, fall temperatures. Anybody? Come on, we're right there. We're right there. Our mission here at City Church, the reason that we exist, the reason we started City Church back in 2019 was one very simple purpose, and that is to help people find their way to God from where they are. And we do that by practicing the way of Jesus together in Boulder, specifically through the rhythms of weekends and groups. And so here's one of them. Congratulations, you made it. Good job, right? Glad you're here. And then the other one is our city groups. And so again, that interest party is a catalyst to answer questions, help you get connected in community, help you practice the way of Jesus alongside others. It's one thing to sit shoulder to shoulder like we do here. It's one thing to worship collectively, to kind of get the bigger picture of the breadth of God's activity across a family like this. It's another thing to be in a smaller group of people face to face. Does that make sense? And so it's not, yes, you make friends. Yes, that's absolutely part of what happens in a city group, but they're not really for your friendships. They're for your formation. Okay, just everybody clear on that? And so if you want to grow in what it means to follow Jesus, then you build community alongside others in our city groups. So if you didn't sign up, we'd love to have you. I'm sure we can make room for you and look forward to that. Now, I want to celebrate really fast. We had our community night at the Rayback Collective on Friday. Well done. And so, for those of you that don't know, it's a super generous event that we get to throw in the city. We rent out space at the Rayback Collective in the middle of town. We do the first drink on the house for everyone that shows up. Tons of guests show up. It's just a really cool third space to create an environment for people to be exposed to community and the love of God that maybe wouldn't join you for a weekend gathering, but get to meet in that space. And so lots of cool stories came from that. I'll share one in just a moment. But also we get to be generous not only in the space, but then we get to bless the socks off of all of the workers that evening too. And so because of your radical generosity, we get to host the space and provide that space, but also we get to tip really generously and say, hey, Jesus loves you in that manner as well. So well done. Put your hands together for your generosity. I love the space of the Rayback because it is an intentional space where it empowers our team to grow in their boldness and their courage of sharing their story, God's story, hearing other people's stories, like working on just being bold in what God is doing in their lives and hearing from others. And so I was really blown away. Our team did such a good job at Community Night on Friday. I kept running out of people to talk to because you guys were taking them all. And I was I'm twiddling my thumbs. I'm like, if you guys would just leave some room for me, I could talk to somebody. So well done. Put your hands together. Good job. Last week, if you weren't here, we did not have an online service. We didn't record or anything like that because we had one of our friends from India in town. Come on. For those of you that were in the room, was it awesome? It was awesome. It was awesome. And so, if you weren't here, you were missed. It was an awesome Sunday. For security reasons, we can't post any of that online or use their names, things like that. But one of the challenge, not only did we get to celebrate all that God is doing, we just threw out some casual numbers like 10,000 churches have been planted, over 1 million people saved and baptized, and they're just getting started. No big deal. Okay, yeah, it's pretty crazy that we get to partner with them. They just graduated like a month and a half ago. They just graduated 2,200 new church planters going out into unreached villages in northern India. So come on, let's go. Crazy. But one of the things that we have the privilege of challenging and inviting our church into was this new initiative of beginning to support and adopt these children at this orphanage. So here's a picture of a couple of them. Come on, put your hands together for the kids. Love it. And so all around you, again, if you weren't here last week, there are these little cards that are kind of in the seats all around you. They're in the lobby as well. It's on the homepage of our website. And we are challenging our entire church to help us adopt and then fund and care for these orphans. There's currently 140 orphans that we are trying to care for. The orphanage has the capacity of holding 500. So just a heads up, this is just where we are today. And we're currently trying to fund all 140 orphans. And so for $50 a month, it does a couple of things. It provides all of their nutrition, their housing, their education, and it saturates them in an environment to grow up in the way and the love of Jesus. Come on, $50 a month does all of that. covers their school uniforms and all kinds of things. So it's honestly quite amazing. And the challenge was for our church to help us adopt these 140 kids. And so this card has a QR code that's a direct link to a commitment card. So there's no funds attached to this link or anything like that. This is just expressing commitment. And so we asked our church between last Sunday and today to help begin making commitments of, hey, what is your interest and ability and capacity as you listen to God? And between last Sunday and today, we have, there's 22 commitments that have come in, and there are 17 and a half kids that are currently being supported through our church. Come on, put your hands together for the generosity of our church. So hey, to everyone that has made a commitment to support a kid through India, well done, and thank you for stretching your generosity to make a difference, to give up $50 on your end a month to make a wild impact in the life of someone else. And for those of you that have not made your commitment yet, I want to challenge and encourage and remind you, if you have not done that, then please do that today. Again, same link is on our website. And I had the privilege of talking to our friend in India this morning. He said, hey, how's it looking? I said, hey, we've supported 17 out of 140. So we've got some work to do. And I want to challenge and I want to stretch you. Lean in with me. Ask very simply, God, how would you have me sacrifice on my end in a small way to make a significant difference in the life of someone else? Now, here's what's really cool, is it's not just like sign up, you'll start giving monthly to a kid, and then you'll just never hear about it. We're working with this team very intentionally. We're going to have an entire wall, like in the lobby, dedicated. We're going to have pictures of every single kid in this orphanage and their names on a wall in the lobby. And then we're going to get duplicate photos of all of them so that everyone that's supporting kids can then take a photo home and begin praying for them, okay? And so we're connecting the dots as relationally as we can. When you sign up to give, you're also connected with this newsletter so that you're hearing all the updates from this team. We're also having team members that are working in the orphanage itself that we're partnering with and communicating with. And so we're going to do our very best to connect as much of this family with what's going on in India as we can. Does that make sense? Okay, so hey, thank you for your generosity. Well done. And thank you for letting me stretch you a little bit. On that note, I think God has something really, really special for us today. And so I would just encourage you to lean in, no matter where you are on your spiritual journey. You're loved, you're safe, you're welcome here. We're so glad to have you here. Our desire is to meet you where you are, help you take some next steps in your relationship with Jesus. And so as we walk through the text today, we're continuing in our series through Matthew. We picked it up at the beginning of the summer. We're kind of halfway through the book of Matthew. It'll probably take us a year or two more to finish this whole series. But right now, today, we're picking up in Matthew 11. So we'll get there in a moment. But I have one more just quick side note for you. For some of you, when it comes to conversations around generosity, I don't know your relationship with the church and organized religion, and some people get weird around money. Jesus talked about money a lot and had a lot to say about it, how it's connected to our hearts, how where our money goes, typically our hearts follow. And so I'm challenging you to invest financially so your hearts will follow. Does that make sense? Many of you invest financially here at City Church. Your hearts follow that. You begin to invest in India. Guys, I can't help but watch the videos that we have and just weep, because my heart is so deeply tied up with what God is doing in India. But I want you to know, listen, my heart is deeply tied to this family right here. That as I pray for you, as I weep over you, as I ask God on your behalf to do what only He can do, I'm invested here. And for some of you, when it comes to conversations around generosity, it's not that there's not a desire. I talk to a lot of people who have a genuine desire to grow in generosity. But some people are simply not well equipped to manage all that God has given them. We all went to middle school and high school. Anybody get like really great finance classes from middle school and high school? Anybody? What the heck are we doing, America? Right? Come on. Nope, let's do credit cards and college debt. That's what we're going to do to everybody. No. And so most people, unless you grew up in a home that was financially savvy, or you grew up in a home that taught you to look at money from a biblical worldview, most people just have a default set of relating to money, and most people don't manage what they have well. But if we're followers of Jesus, now listen, if you're not a follower of Jesus in the room, then hang tight for a minute. This is not for you. But if you're a follower of Jesus in the room, then we view all that we have as God's. He's entrusted our entire lives, my time, my energy, my resources, my bank accounts, my cars, my house, my children, you name it. Everything I have is God's, and it's my job to manage what He has given me, right? So that's where generosity comes from, is to say, okay, God, What do you want me to do with what I have, what you have allowed me to steward? And I think for a lot of people, they struggle because they don't know how to manage well. They've not been given the equipping. They've not been given the tools. And so I would just challenge you this morning. Generosity is not just about your heart. Your heart matters, by the way. God deeply cares about generosity coming from the heart, not out of obligation and guilt and shame. But it's also about building a life that actually has room for generosity. Does that make sense? Right? Like we have to actually build margin into our lives to where we actually can be generous. And so we're doing this class coming up at the end of September, called Financial Peace University. This is hosted by Dave Ramsey, who's like a wizard in the financial world, also a Christian, so great guy. And listen, this is just my small commercial for you, okay? There's already a couple people that have signed up for this class. We did this in our team meeting. But if you want to grow in your managing skills and what God has given you, say, okay, God, I really want to be a good steward of what you've given me. I want to manage well this life that I have. Specifically in the realm of finance, this class is 8 weeks. It's going to be between $80 and $100, depending on the number of people that sign up. It gets discounted, I think, after 10 people, down to 80. But $80 to $100 to sign up, includes all your material and whatever, and it'll be on Sundays, so we'll get you all the information. But this class, Financial Peace University, changed the way that Danielle and I think about finance. We were newly married. I came from a family that was pretty helpful in the managing of material, like possessions world, so I had some skill set. But this class equipped me in a way that I couldn't have got anywhere else. And so I just want you to know, listen, friends, if you are there, your heart has a desire to be generous, but you are in that place of feeling stuck. You're like, man, I want to be, but I just don't know how to get there. Like you hear about these orphans and your heart breaks for them. You're like, man, I wish I could do more. I would challenge you, you can. You can do more. But maybe part of it is you need the equipping and the resources and the encouragement and the accountability from others who are following Jesus alongside you. So, on your connection cards, there's a little alphabet at the bottom of the connection card there. You can circle the letter F. F for Financial Peace University. That makes sense? And we'll get you more information on that. Now listen, the irony of someone desiring to grow in managing their finances is you might be like, dang it, I don't have $80 to $100 to get better at managing what I have. And so listen, if that's a challenge for you, don't let that stop you from getting help. And if we can help you, if we can find a scholarship for you, whatever, we will, okay? And so, again, circle F on your connection card. We'll get you more information. Everybody good? Long commercial? Feeling okay? Okay. So, thank you guys for your patience there. And thank you. Listen, I genuinely believe most people in the room have a desire to grow in generosity. And I would just invite you to let God work and give the room that he needs. So we're at the Rayback Collective on Friday, and lots of cool stuff was happening. But I had the privilege of talking to one lady, and she was like a guest that was just at the Rayback and happened to walk in, come hang out with us. And she said, hey, so tell me about your church. Tell me about City Church. I would love to hear more about what are you guys doing? What are you about? And I paused for a moment, and I responded to her, and I said, we exist to do exactly what we're doing right now. And her son was in the room, and Evan was talking to her son and encouraging him and hearing his story, and they're connecting and sharing numbers, and his son is new to Boulder, her son is new to Boulder, all that stuff, right? And I just say, hey, we exist to do exactly what we're doing in the room right now, and that is helping people find their way to God from where they are. And that means that we're not waiting for people to show up on a Sunday, but rather we are committed to sharing the love of God by meeting people where they are, by going to them. And it was really cool to very simply tell her, hey, this is what we're about. This is all that we're about. And I imagine what she was really asking was tell me about your programs, tell me about your approach, tell me about your church structure. And I didn't give her any of that, right? Left her wanting. You're welcome. All right. And so anyway, but at the end of the night, here's what's really cool. AJ was the manager of the evening. And so we're wrapping it up, and I'm tipping like I do and doing all the things, tipping more than I'm supposed to, all that stuff. And then I talked to AJ. So again, really cool. And I talked to AJ and I said, hey man, typically, as we're wrapping up, we ask all of our servers if we can pray for them before we leave. Is there anything I can pray for you for? And so then AJ, who I have no idea where he is on his spiritual journey, he pauses for a moment, and then he tells a story about his girlfriend's knees and how she's had 4 knee surgeries and all the things. And he says, man, if you could pray for her healing or pray for her knees. And I'm like, yeah, can I pray for you right now? Which sometimes people freak out when you do that. They're like, oh, you meant right now? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. And I'm like, okay, can I lay a hand on your shoulder? And he's like, yeah, right. It's getting real comfy in the Rayback. And so in that moment, we tip generously, we get to host this event, and then I get to lay hands on AJ and pray for the healing of his girlfriend's niece. And that specifically, she'll connect that back to the story of some random dude prayed for me the other night, and for some reason your knees feel better, right? And so I just want you to know, it's that kind of stuff that we get to do as a church. Isn't that cool? Super cool. And listen, I'm not saying that story to toot my own horn. I'm saying that was happening all over that evening. And what's really cool is our church is learning and growing to take that same posture where we live, work, and play, right? That's the goal. And so I hope you're encouraged in that. But I had one other thought, and this is all going to Matthew 11 today, okay? So hang tight. We also had a team meeting last Sunday. So we had our India friends here, and then we had a team meeting. All of our team members here at City Church got together, went over the direction of our church and our budget, things like that. One or a couple of people asked, hey, so if we increase our budget, if we increase our generosity, not just to this orphanage, but to City Church directly. So we're increasing our giving, or starting to give for the very first time at City Church, and then we're also adopting orphans and giving there. What are we going to do with the extra money? Or if we have more money, what are we going to put it toward? And I think what they were asking is I would have a list of 10 propositions. Here's my next layer of thingies I would do if we had more money as a church. But my answer was similar to what I gave the lady at the Rayback. And that was, we're just going to do more of what we're already doing. Right? We're not reinventing the wheel here. Listen, friends, City Church is not built around a growing list of propositions where we increase our capacity to do more, and we have all these awesome things on a waiting list. Listen, City Church is not built around a proposition. It's built on a person, and it's Jesus. It's knowing Jesus and making him known, and we're going to do everything we can to push that mission forward in Boulder, the West, in the world. Are you with me? All right, and so I tell you that, listen, it's more missions, it's more outreach, it's more benevolence, it's more generosity, it's more stewarding well what we have. It's just more of what we're already doing. Does that make sense? And so I'm not saying we're doing it perfectly, but everything rises and falls on the hill of Jesus himself. The person of Jesus, not 10 propositions, not 15 programs, Jesus himself. And that's what we're talking about today. You guys ready? Jesus, okay. We've been in Matthew for a while, and Matthew 1 through 10 has been kind of this storytelling from Matthew's perspective of the life and the works and the teachings and the ministry of Jesus. And now there's a transition from Matthew telling us all the stuff that Jesus has done to now how people are responding to the person of Jesus. So all of my intro is we're all about Jesus here, okay? And the challenge today is we're going to look at someone responding to Jesus, and we're going to look at Jesus' response to them, and then we're going to very simply do the same in our lives. Who is Jesus? What are we going to do with this man that he would be the central focus of our church and many others? He would be the central focus of a movement in India, and he would be a central focus of my heart and my mind and your heart and your mind. Who is Jesus? So let's go to Matthew 11. You ready? All right, here we go. Matthew 11, when Jesus had finished instructing his 12 disciples, he went on from there to teach and to preach in their cities. So Jesus is continuing to share the good news of his arrival and the kingdom that he is ushering in, a kingdom of the heart, a kingdom of transformation, of forgiveness of sin. And when John, who, if you're kind of catching up from last year, John was the forerunner for Jesus, okay? So John shows up on the scene saying, hey, there's one coming who's going to change everything, and that's Jesus. And so Now, when John heard in prison, where did he hear? He heard about the stuff Jesus is doing in prison, about the deeds of the Christ, and he sent word by his disciples and said to Jesus, are you the one who is to come, or shall we look for another? So where is John? In prison. And he sends word to Jesus saying, hey, are you actually the one, or should I be looking for another? Now, this is wild, because here's John's words from John, the gospel account. Look at this. This is what John said about Jesus just a little bit earlier. So the next day, John saw Jesus coming toward him, and this is what John said. Behold, the one I'm not sure who he really is and what he's going to do. Right? John, he listen to the confidence level. Behold, the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. That's John's statement about Jesus. And now he's sending word to Jesus. Hey, are you actually the dude? little bit of a disconnect. Watch. This is he of whom I said, this is John talking, after me comes a man who ranks before me because he was before me. That's John saying this guy has existed forever. He's God. I myself did not know him, but for this purpose I came baptizing with water that he might be revealed to Israel. John's saying, my purpose is to make Jesus known to Israel as the Messiah, the one they've been waiting for. John bore witness. I saw the Spirit of God descend from heaven like a dove, and it remained on Jesus. I myself did not know him, but he who sent me to baptize, that's God, okay? So he's saying, God sent me to baptize with water, and God told me, this is what John says, God told me, he on whom you see the Spirit descend and remain, this is he who baptizes you with the Holy Spirit. And I have seen, and I have borne witness that this is the Son of God. There's some confidence, yeah? All right, now back to Matthew 11 here. Are you the one who is to come? Or should we be looking for another? What's going on? Well, John's in prison. And things are not exactly going according to his plan, his vision of how Jesus should be behaving. He's in darkness. He's doubting. And it kind of makes sense. Would you agree? Anybody ever had a hard day? Right? Where you start to question things, right? You're like, okay, John's in prison. Things are not going according to plan. And what's amazing, we'll get there in a minute, but Jesus doesn't respond and say, oh, how dare you? I can't believe you would, right? Honestly, Jesus is so compassionate. He doesn't find himself appalled at the doubt, but he also doesn't leave it alone. And what does this tell us? We're going to watch this story play out, but it tells us that anyone is allowed to doubt. Jesus is not afraid or concerned with your doubts. He's not being shamed for his doubt. Listen, friends, I don't know your background, but there are some churches that maybe you've been around, or some people who follow Jesus, and if you have questions and you have doubts and you have concerns, they're like, oh, no, shh. We don't ask those questions here. You just got to believe. You just got to have faith, whatever the heck that means, right? Like, you know what I'm talking about? Where like doubt is discouraged. Don't ask hard questions. Don't dare start poking holes and try, what about this and what about that? And I just want you to notice that that's not going to be Jesus' posture in a moment. And listen, this is important because we want to be a church and a people where we welcome honest doubts and wrestling and fears and confusion, right? Like we want to be a people. If we're going to meet people where they are, we're meeting them in their doubt and their fear and their shame. And the same is for you. You might be following Jesus and things are going great. Others of you, you're like, man, you're like John, you're like, I thought Jesus was great, but things are not going according to plan at the moment. Listen, we understand. I understand. We live in a world where it's actually hard to believe. Would you agree? Like, don't pretend like it's just easy to have faith, to trust in Jesus, to live against the current of the world. We live in a city that is literally working full-time against the worldview of Jesus. It's hard to follow Jesus. It's hard to trust in Jesus. It's easy to doubt. It's easy to start to have fear and what ifs and what abouts. And I just want you to know there's permission to struggle. Jesus invites it. Are you the one, or should I look elsewhere? And specifically, he's talking about Jesus being the one sent from God to rescue their people, the Jewish Messiah. How do you respond when life's not going your way? What do you do? When things are not going your way, what kind of comes up? How do you respond? Are you the one? You see, I think all of us have like the one thing that we're looking for, and probably if you're not a follower of Jesus, like you're trying to figure that out, right? Like what's going to give me safety? What's going to give me security? What's going to give me significance? What's going to make this life count and matter? Everyone has the one thing they're looking for. For John, it's a Messiah. He's like committed to like the spiritual realm. But like, you know, if you live in the West here, then you might not be convinced that there's any God or any hope in a God who can offer life to the full, but you're still looking for something to give life meaning, right? And so some people, it's actually the one. You know what I'm talking about? Like the one person, like all the trashy love songs, right? That are just so pathetic, but awesome at the same time. You know what I'm talking about? Right? A little bit of John Legend. All of me, right? You know what I'm talking about? And everybody, like, we get in our fields, but also, like, you follow. Sorry, I know that was rough. You follow. Listen, I love some John Legend, but like, you follow the logic of that song to its full conclusion, and basically, right, you crush another individual under the weight of being the one that's going to fix everything for me, right? And so, for some people, right, your significant everything you're looking for is in a person. That might be true, but for others of you, it's your career. Right? So John's looking for a literal Messiah, someone to save and rescue him. Some of you, you're just making your job a Messiah, or your kids a Messiah, or a relationship a Messiah, or your bank account or a Messiah, or the Bitcoin rise a Messiah. And right, I don't know what it is for you. Status and experience and materialism and hedonism, all kinds of stuff. Yourself. Some of us, we just Messiahify ourselves. We're like, it's all on me. Come on, baby. Keep it up, man. Keep it up. What is the one thing that you're looking for to fix everything? When life is not going your way, we all look somewhere. And here's John. And he was looking to Jesus, and now he's a little confused because Jesus is not doing what he thought Jesus should be doing. If you're a follower of Jesus in the room, what do you do when Jesus is not doing what you expect him to do? When the prayers you're praying are not being answered in the way you think they should be? When the circumstances of life are not playing out in a manner you think they should be playing out. When doubt and struggle come in, a lot of times we start to look for meaning and significance elsewhere. And we're invited into the story. Look at verse 4. Look at Jesus' response to John. Jesus answered his disciples. He says, go tell John what you hear and see. The blind receive their sight. The lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, and the deaf hear. The dead are raised up, the poor have good news preached to them, and blessed is the one who is not offended by me. Jesus forces the question here. He says, John, I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And in this moment, Jesus is pulling from Isaiah 35. Look at these words, see if they sound familiar. Isaiah 35 here. This is the prophecy of the coming Messiah from Isaiah. Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then shall the lame man leap like a deer, and the tongue of the mute sing for joy, for waters break forth in the wilderness and streams in the desert. You see the picture of life? Jesus is quoting straight from Isaiah. John knows his Bible. John knows this verse. And he says, go back and tell John, I'm doing the exact things that he knows he should be expecting. And here's the tension. So we go back to that verse. The tension here is, again, I'm doing all of these things, but John's in prison, right? And so John has this image of Jesus being this like victory Messiah that's going to literally set Israel free from the oppression of Rome. And Jesus is coming, yes, sure, absolutely. Let's help the blind and the lame. That's great, but let's also do the other stuff. And now John is behind bars, and Jesus is not doing the thing. And there's this challenge, friends, of the world's understanding of what we need, and then Jesus' understanding. Right? John has a picture of what he thinks Jesus is supposed to be doing, and Jesus is saying, hey man, you're missing it. You see, because everything Jesus is doing seems weak and unimpressive, right? He's like healing people and telling them not to share with anybody. He's like hanging out with a bunch of unimpressive and uninfluential people. He's not engaging with the authorities of Rome. He's not overthrowing government. Everything he's doing is background, and it's weak and it's unimpressive. And John's saying, if you're who you say you are, I should not be where I am. My life should be up and to the right now, Jesus. I'm your guy. I'm your forerunner. You should be taking over Rome, and I should be your second-hand guy. That's John's vision of the good life. What about yours? Friends, let's not kid ourselves that the American dream doesn't bleed into our hearts a little bit, and we start to mix Jesus and his promises with our ideals in this world. And then when Jesus is not delivering on our expectations, we start to say, hey, why aren't you doing the thing? You're supposed to come in strong. You're supposed to fix all this stuff. And what's amazing is Jesus, he says, listen, friends, if I came in strong, there would be nobody left. I've got to come in weak to meet you in your weakness. I didn't come just to liberate a people like a nation here. I came to liberate the human condition from sin and the devil and death. Jesus is doing so much more than John can see, and John is a little bit frustrated and disillusioned by it. Jesus is saying, what I came to do is only for those who know that they're weak. I didn't come for the strong, who think they have it all together, and they get to partner with me in continuing to move their agenda forward. I came for the weak, those who can't earn or achieve what I came to give. If you know that you're weak and you know you can't do it yourself, then Jesus says, I can step in and do it for you. Now, verse 6, look here. Blessed is the one who is not offended by me. Blessed is the one, and we're using the ESV here. I think it's a better translation. Blessed is the one who is not offended by me. That's such a good word because Jesus is so offensive, yeah? Like one of the reasons it's hard to talk about Jesus in America is not because of like literal physical persecution, but because of verbal persecution. You're like, oh man, like Jesus is so offensive. Have you ever been in a conversation with somebody and you're like, hey, don't be offended by what I'm about to say, but what are you doing? You're teeing up the reality that what you're about to say is very offensive, right? Absolutely. And Jesus is doing the same. Blessed is the one, happy is the one, celebrating is the one who is not offended by me. Why is that? Why would he be saying this to John? Jesus is declaring that he's the Savior. He came in weakness to set the weak free. He came as a doctor for the sick. He came as a healer for the needy. But Jesus, in all of his declarations about himself, Jesus, in all of his connections to John, kind of being the forerunner, Jesus is making some clear statements about himself, but he's also making some clear statements about you and me, is he not? So you know what's funny is the reason Jesus is so offensive is not really because he himself is offensive, but because of everything that implies about you and me. Right? Jesus himself, I mean, everybody like, oh yeah, Jesus is a cool guy. But everything that Jesus is implies something about you. If Jesus is really who he said he is, it means a couple of things about you and me. And so it's equally important for us to consider, and for John to do the same. John's like, man, I've been strong for you, Jesus. Why aren't things working out? And he's like, so you're missing it. You can't see. I came for the weak. Blaise Pascal said that there is a God-shaped vacuum in the heart of every man, which cannot be satisfied by any created thing, but only by God the Creator made known through Jesus Christ. There's a God-shaped hole in the heart of every person. And if you're not offended by Jesus, friends, I would argue that you haven't seen him for who he really is. A prerequisite to experiencing the grace that Jesus came to bring is acknowledging that you need it. Right? Grace is amazing. Grace is free. Grace is literally Jesus paying it all. We sing some of those songs, right? Jesus paid it all. Grace is Jesus paying it all. The only prerequisite to grace is knowing that you need it. If you know you're sick, what do? You typically go to the doctor, right? Unless you have the man flu, then some of you just stick around and wait it out. But like, if you're sick, you go to the doctor. If you know that you're sick. But if you're unaware that you're sick, what do? You do nothing. And then you die, right? Like those are the things that happen. Right? So literally an awareness of need is part of what Jesus is coming to bring. We must admit that we put our ultimate hope and our trust in other things but God. So again, when life gets hard, where do you put your trust and your hope? That's the question. And that's the invitation from Jesus. It's wildly offensive, friends, to admit that you're spiritually blind. It's wildly offensive to admit that you're spiritually lame and broken, a leper separated from God. It's wildly offensive, and yet, when you look at Jesus, it's wildly wonderful. Because he steps into all of that. and he becomes weak for our sake that we might be strong. He exchanges beauty for ashes, riches for rags. It's in our need that we see the wonder and the beauty and the love and the mercy of God. And that's what Jesus is trying to help John see in this moment. Look at verse 7. As they go away, Jesus begins to speak to the crowds about John. What did you go out into the wilderness to see? John was out in the wilderness preaching. A reed shaken by the wind? That's like meant to be a really weak picture, right? Some just flimsy little cattail getting shaken around, right? If you know anything about John and his story, he's not a weak person, right? He was a strong individual to contend with. He was very bold in what he came to do. He said, what'd you go out in the wilderness to see? A reed shaken by the wind? No, not at all. What then did you go out to see? A man dressed in soft clothing that's kind of like, it's meant to be like royal clothing, like clothing in palaces. Right? No, what does John wear? Like camel's hair, and he's out there eating locusts, and he's got his like wild man thing going on, right? So what, did you go out to see this soft man, this weak man? No, John was not any of those things. What then did you go out to see? A prophet. Now listen, a prophet's a big deal. This is someone who speaks on behalf of God. You went out to see a prophet. So Jesus is acknowledging that John was sent by God. Yes, I tell you, and more than a prophet, this is he of whom it is written. Now Jesus is quoting Malachi here. Behold, I send my messenger before your face who will prepare your way before you. Now this is an Old Testament prophecy in Malachi about the coming Messiah. Jesus is doing two things. He's acknowledging who John is, but by default, Jesus is saying once again who he is. If John is really the guy prophesied about in Malachi, then Jesus is the real deal. Jesus is really who he says he is. Now watch, he goes on. Am I ahead of my game? Do I have through 15? Did I put that in there? Okay, I'll hang out here for a minute. I might have messed up my slides. Apologies. For Jesus to say who John is also to say who he is. Right after this, there's a verse about the kingdom of heaven suffering violence, right? Do you have that, Carson? Do you have that slide? It's important. Verse 12. So much pressure back there. You guys give him a hand. That's intense, right? It's probably on me. It's okay, I'll read it for you. Matthew chapter 11. The rest of it. So starting in verse 11. Truly I say to you, among those born of women, there has arisen no one greater than John the Baptist. Yet the one who is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. Jesus is saying, John's the best person who's ever lived. And my kingdom is coming in such a way that even the least in the kingdom is greater than he. So Jesus is stretching everyone's mind. From the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven has suffered violence, and the violent take it by force. From the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven has suffered violence, and the violent take it by force. Let's talk there for just a moment. Suffering violence. Literally, Jesus, like the kingdom of heaven, has suffered violence. Jesus means that literally, right? So where's John? In prison. He's being violenced against, right? Like he's out there preaching the good news, and he's experiencing violence. All the Old Testament prophets, did they get to hang out in king's palaces? How did it go for them? Violence, right? Persecution. Where's Jesus going to be heading after this? The cross. In case you're wondering, spoiler, I know. Jesus is going to the cross. Violence. So literally, Jesus is saying the kingdom of heaven is suffering violence. The world is working against what Jesus is bringing. But then literally, he also says, the violent take it by force, which sounds kind of wild, okay? So by the way, this would be one of those easy verses to use out of context and you get the Crusades, right? The violent take it by force for king and country, for Jesus and stuff, right? Right? That's not what this is about. This is not about physical violence. One translator uses the language of burning zeal. People are taking the kingdom of heaven with burning zeal. They're spiritually forceful. There's a passion that they have. Here's a better way maybe to understand it. The people that are being exposed to the good news of Jesus aren't saying, oh, that's nice. Oh yeah, I think I'd like to add a little bit of Jesus to my life here. I got a little structure going on. Yeah, I'll add a little bit of Jesus. No, they're saying, absolutely not. I must have this. It's forceful. They're looking at the kingdom of heaven, what Jesus is bringing, and saying, I need this. I need this kingdom. I need this king. I need this forgiveness. I can have nothing less but this right here. I've got to have it. You see it? And this is what's happening. Well, follow the story. Keep reading. And the violent are taking it by force. The passionate are saying, I must get my hands on this. There's a story that Tim Keller tells about a lady who is coming into contact with the grace of Jesus. I want to give it to you as we wrap it up, and I'll invite Daniel to come. She says, man, if I was saved by my good works, by my strongness, by my efforts, then there would be a limit to what God could ask of me or put me through. Like if I had something to do with this whole Jesus making me a new thing, I'd be like a taxpayer with rights. I would have done my duty, and now I would deserve a certain quality of life. Do you hear that in John's voice? This is not what I deserve. Jesus, look at all I've done for you. Some of you, Jesus, I go to church, and I give some money, and I'm a good person, and I haven't flipped anybody off in a while, and like doing my best to be a good parent, and I'm doing my best. I deleted porn off my internet, off my computer, and I'm doing my very best, Jesus, to do all the things. And you feel like God owes you. But if it really is true that I'm a sinner saved by sheer grace at God's infinite cost, it cost him everything and it cost me nothing, then there is nothing he cannot ask of me. So Jesus looks at John. And if you know how the story goes, John doesn't get out. John's beheaded. And John can't put the pieces together of Jesus not showing up like he thinks he should, but Jesus said, hey, I'm doing something even better. I know it's hard to see, but you got to trust me. And some of you are in the room and you're white-knuckling life in such a way to say, God, you owe me this. But if you have a handle on who Jesus really is and what he has done, you realize he owes you nothing and he can ask of you anything. Now, that feels like a pressure, right? Has anybody seen Project Hail Mary? All right, get ready. Spoilers, here they come. Watched it with our family. Project Hail Mary. I won't ruin all of it for you, but it's quite good, right? Premise of the movie, the sun is burning out. They got to save the planet by figuring out what's going on. And the main scientist guy ends up being the only scientist available to go on this trip. The problem to go on this trip to figure out what's going on is it's a one-way ticket. Everybody that gets on this spaceship, they're not coming back. They literally have to volunteer their lives and they will die in space in order to save humanity. And circumstances happen to where he's the only one that can go. He's the only scientist that's available. And so he's sitting at this table and all of these like military officials are looking at him. It's Ryan Gosling. He's quite attractive. But, it is Ryan Gosling, right? That's his name? Okay, yeah. I know my attractive men. That's right. He's sitting at the table. And he looks at them. And he's like, you're asking me to give up my life? And then they respond, they're like, well, you don't really have a life. You don't even have a dog. It's kind of sad. They do that. But then, honestly, he's like, you're asking me to just give up my life. And then there's this moment where you watch him honestly wrestle with the weight of this request to give up his life to save humanity. And it floods over him, not in this like confident, heroic moment. He is broken by it. He is discouraged by it. He is swimming in emotion, and they do a wonderful job of portraying that. You're asking me to give up my life? And what's really cool, fast forward, I won't give it all to you. But what's really cool at the end, he's not feeling it, by the way, okay? He does not have hero syndrome going on. But at the end of the movie, he finds that everything he gave up was 10,000% worth it. It's a humbling movie to watch, but there's a joy, there's a contentment in him that, yes, he gave up his life, but what he gained was so much better. Does that make sense? Now, that falls immediately short of what I'm about to tell you, but that's exactly what Jesus is doing for John, and it's what he's doing for you and I. You're asking me to give up my life? Yes. All of it. Your whole life. And the promise that Jesus has on offer is, if you will lose your life for my sake, you will find it. John Newton, the guy that wrote Amazing Grace, popular song, mediocre. He also wrote some other songs, and this verse has been standing out to me. Our pleasure and our duty, though opposite before, since we have seen his beauty, are joined to part no more. For followers of Jesus, our pleasure and our duty, the ideals of my life and the weight of obligation I feel from what Jesus is asking of me, they feel like opposites. But since we have seen his beauty, the costliness of what he has given to have me, they're joined to part no more. Duty and pleasure go hand in hand. Does that make sense? Whew. My question for you this morning, friends, is very simple. What will you do with the offense of Jesus? What will you do with the offense of Jesus? Jesus is offensive. And Jesus looks at John and he says, blessed are those who are not offended by me, who know that they're weak, and who come to me so that I can do for them what they cannot do for themselves. What will you do with the offense of Jesus? If you're not a follower of Jesus in the room this morning, maybe you will let him offend your efforts of saving yourself. Maybe you will let him offend your efforts of relationships bringing significance and career and a stable housing space and this kind of community and this much in my bank account and this direction of my life. Maybe you will let him offend everything you've been clinging on to realize they're not enough. And in that offense, you will look at the beauty of what Jesus has done for you. That he became weak and gave his life for you so that you can know life. Maybe you're a follower of Jesus in the room and you would let him offend your budget today. Maybe you would let him offend your ideals around giving, your ideals around generosity. Someone on our team this morning had what they felt like it was a word from God for somebody this morning. They said, if you don't believe, I don't know who this is for, if you don't believe that you can trust God in the arena of your finances, just test him. Adopt one kid and just put God's word to the test. See if he's actually true to his word, if he'll take care of you. Maybe you would let Jesus offend your planned budgeting. And you have this plan of margin. I'm going to support one kid and he's going to blow that up and you're going to support more than one. Maybe you're going to let him offend your budgeting. And listen, I'll never forget when I was like 21 years old and Jesus offended my budget. I was giving away 10% of my income to the church and the missions. And he said, I want you to give 20. Well, that's a lot. I did it anyway. And he provided in every miraculous way possible, both to make a difference and to set my heart free from greed. Maybe you'll let him offend you in your relationship ideals, your pursuit of a significant other, your frustration with community, with this community, with your city group, or the lack of community that you have around you. Maybe you'll let him offend your unwillingness to be vulnerable. Maybe you'll let him offend your timidity of holding on to guarding your own heart and life to where you're actually holding other people accountable. Maybe there's words that God has given you to be bold about, and you're holding it back. Maybe you'll let him offend those arenas of your life. Maybe you'll let him offend the use of your time. You're white knuckling and controlling everything. I only have so much margin. And you would turn around and say, Jesus, all I have is yours. Tell me what to do with it. What will you do with the offense of Jesus today? That's not my job to answer for you. It's to give you space to answer it. Will you stand with me? I'm going to pray for us, and then we're going to respond in a couple of different ways. As you stand, God, I want to bless all of my friends in the room today. Thank you for the offense of Jesus. It is the most unbearable and beautiful thing that many of us have ever encountered. It hurts all of our feelings and it heals all of our wounds. It makes us whole and it gives us life while stripping us of everything we think is secure. Jesus, some of us in the room this morning, we have ideals, the Jesus that we want you to be. And you're inviting us to be offended by you this morning. To see if we will trust you to be the Jesus that you say you are, even if it doesn't line up with our ideals. God, would you help us to trust you this morning? If you would give us your life, Jesus, what would you hold back? Would you push out the voices of fear and shame and guilt and obligation? And would you marry together in our hearts the incredible space of pleasure and duty working together? You can ask of us anything and we can joyfully say yes because of who you are and what you have done for us. Thank you, God. Some of my friends in the room, the offense of Jesus is knocking on the front door, calling them to admit that they are weak, admit that they have need, admit that they need someone outside of themselves to save, to rescue, to set free, to bring in life. Would they trust you today? Some of us, we're worried about getting baptized. Like we've trusted in you, we've made that decision, but there's never been a moment in our life where we have stepped into the water, gone under and come back up to identify with you and to obey and trust you. Would you move duty and pleasure together in the hearts of those who have not been baptized? And lead them to sign up to be baptized next week, to be bold in trusting in you, because it's going to lead to life. God, there are 140 orphans that our small church in northern Boulder, Colorado, has the privilege of caring for. And I believe you've given us this moment to step in. Offend our finances, offend our budgeting, offend our white knuckling, and stretch our hearts toward generosity. And then on the other side, God, could we take confidence that we'll look back and say, wow, I had no idea what I would gain through what I gave up. Jesus, we give you the rest of our time this morning to do what only you can do. In Jesus' name, amen.